So you finally got your roofing business going and you're starting to make some money, but how do you scale it? Well, you'll find out in this episode. Hi, this is Daniel Lakstins, and you're listening to the Roofing Business Builder Podcast. I'm your personal commercial roofing guru. Roofing Business Builder is here to help you grow your business. And so this episode is specifically focused on you, the roofer that is trying to make it to the 1 million, make it to the 2 million, and even scale from there. So my guest is Devon Bullard with Bullard Exteriors. And he, of course, has done really well. He learned to scale his business, and he's got a lot of lessons along the way for us. But before we get into that, let's get into our intention for this episode. This intention is I count my wins weekly. I count my wins weekly. Now, why should I say daily? You should do this daily, but the truth is do you sit down with your team and talk about those positive things that have happened for your company towards the end of the week? So I recently sat down with one of my associates, and we were discussing these wins, but I wanted to share that with you too, because really you should set a time, and usually towards the end of the week, to look what you got accomplished, and that way you can also set up your agenda for the following week. So yes, I count my wins weekly. All right, so my special guest again is Devon Bullard with Bullard Exteriors, and he scaled his company successfully to 10 million. So what are some of the lessons he learned on the way of scaling, and what are some excellent things that he'll share with you today on how you can scale your business? Hey, so Devon, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Well, I'm excited to have you on the show because, boy, I've seen some of the stuff that you've been doing out there, and I really resonate with you because I feel like you and I had similar backgrounds in trying to grow. And when you're thinking about, a lot of us roofers out there, we're just scraping by in the beginning, and we're just trying, and then we're messing up. We keep messing up, and then finally something clicks. So I'm really excited about asking how you went from 0 to $1 million, and then on through making more money, and even at the point that you're at. So, but can you give me a little brief history for some that may not know who Devon Bullard is?
Absolutely.
How this started?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me on, first of all. But my name's Devon. We started in 2014, and when I say we, I mean just me. So I didn't start out with a team or anything like that. So I don't want to give that impression. But I started in 2014, and I actually started out in pressure washing. So it was not your typical, maybe I worked for someone else and then sold roofs for a while and then started my own. I actually started out in pressure washing because I didn't have the budget to, buy the materials for my first roof back then.
No.
So I sold a motorcycle and bought a pressure washing trailer. Turns out that trailer was broken. All the equipment on it was basically had to be rebuilt. And so, I was in a little bit of a situation there where I had just spent all of the money that I had on something that didn't work. And so from starting out there to building it up, to where we're at now, it's been a fun journey. But like I said, when I started out, it was just me doing everything. So my very first year, I was doing it part-time while I was attending UGA before I decided to not finish. And
I went to radiology school too myself. I was,
go.
And I worked in a doctor's office as an X-ray tech under his license through a school program.
Yeah.
But, it took me 9 months to realize there's no windows. So I dropped out of school. That's so cool. That's a neat. So then
so basically from there, I realized that in my first year of going door-to-door pressure washing, I ended up getting good at it because not many people were doing door-to-door pressure washing then. And So after my first year, I looked at it and I'm like, okay, well, I made more this year than I was going to with the degree I was going after.
Mm.
So there's no point in me finishing if I can just do this every year and if I grow it. And so, from there, started basically adding on other services, adding on the painting, the repair work, all of that. And I basically would go out and I know you were telling me a story earlier about how you would show up in a suit one day and then show up for work the next day.
Yeah.
And that was the same way for me. So I'd
show
give
up, that double look, like what?
Yep. So, it was always funny whenever, I sold like a painting job and then, I showed up clean cut to sell the job. And then, a few days later, a week later, a month later, whenever I started, I showed up with every ladder I owned, a paint sprayer, the whole deal. And they're like, what? So, basically I realized after a couple of years in business that I didn't really have a company. I had a job. It was just me by myself. And so I started looking at it. I'm like, oh my God, I have to scale, because if I don't scale, if I get hurt out here, then it's all over. If anything happens, if I get sick for a week, it's all over. So I don't really have a business. I have a job. And so from there, I decided to really start growing and learning and studying to try to figure out the things that I don't know so that I can grow.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I've heard it said that most people start, they think they're starting a business, but they're actually creating a new job for themselves.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. More hours, less pay, less gratification.
Yeah. So then when you got into the roofing, and you were a master at creating relationships, and relationships with large types of businesses. And you kind of synchronistically fell into a lot of that stuff,
Yep. So, I mean, the main thing for me is when I started my company, I wanted to be able to be somebody's one-stop deal for anything on the outside of the home.
That's hard to do.
It is hard to do. And I made some mistakes along the way there. I went too broad. I didn't focus down enough.
Cost a lot of money doing that.
Yes.
Because I did the same thing. I mean, can you redo our bathroom? I'm like, yeah, I could always say yes. And then what happened? Yeah. I mean, the pricing was off. Next thing I know, I lost money on that job.
Yep. No, exactly. So, that going into the roofing side from there and trying to grow that area and really focusing on that is what helped us kind of get a foothold and start to build a brand. So we do roofing, siding, gutters, painting, and pressure washing now. And that's, believe it or not, that's narrowed down. That is narrowed down. And, we're working on getting all of that tightened up. But, it used to be just like you said, oh, can you put a fence up?
Oh yeah.
Can and should are two different things. Can I? Yes. Should I?
Granted, I did make money off the fencing though. But I couldn't say no to any of those things either.
Yep.
Yeah. But it is, I always say this about architects is if you're architects, they didn't go to plumbing school or they're not electricians.
Right.
They're definitely not roofers. They got one page one paragraph in their whole textbook that talks about roofing. So, I mean, that's why they need us. They may be so smart, they can do things, but yeah. So and it's the same thing though. We have to think of that too, with humility to think that what am I really good at? And what can I duplicate or put into a system to where we make money. Because if you're so distracted, always learning, you'll never, right? Is that what your experience was?
Yeah. So, kind of going back on the building relationships with that. I mean, with starting out and wanting to be everybody's one-stop shop, I had to realize that in order for me to properly serve them, I had to be able to, number one, find out what they wanted and how we can help, and then be able to solve the problem properly. So, that's why we narrow down the list of services that we offer, because while we do want to be, their one call, I've got people that I refer out for almost all the stuff that we don't do, just because I know that that'll serve the customer better. And so that's why people call us. I've got customers that have been using me for the last 8 years that we've been in business now.
Mm-hmm.
but building that relationship has enabled me to where I've got one customer specifically. I started out, I think he was maybe customer number 15 or 20 that I ever worked with. I did $150 driveway pressure washing for him. Since then, we've done the pressure washing every year. We've done their roof. We've done almost a whole exterior renovation on the house, new siding, painting, all of that kind of stuff. And then we're still pressure washing it. So all of that comes about, and the revenue generated from that all comes because we built a relationship and, we served that customer well.
That's beautiful. Yeah. I was thinking, when you were saying this, I was thinking about not Walmart, actually Amazon. Amazon is an example of this. That now, did Amazon sell everything in the beginning? What were they doing? Do you remember?
Books.
That's it. Just books. So they were niched down first, and then once they expand, then But I think that's what you're saying too. Is having a team. Once you get to a certain level, then you create teams, and then you can then expand into other things down the road. So is that the kind of advice you're giving for any of these roofers that are trying to grow? Is because that's what I'm hearing right now, is that stay focused on a smaller niche, basically.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the things that, that cost me a ton of money, was having shiny object syndrome. Ooh, I can do that. Ooh, I can do that. And so rather than getting really good on one or two, maybe three things, we were doing a lot of stuff. We did it well, but we didn't make money at it. So we didn't do it,
And from a customer's perspective, if you're growing a client base with that referral, from this customer will be talking to one of their buddies. Oh, no, you gotta use them. Gotta use Devon. Devon's my roofer. Instead, they're like going, well, it was pretty good on the roofing, but the other stuff. Next thing you know, you're actually ruining your reputation because you're trying to take on so much. And a lot of times, just because we have a big heart, we're also wanting that money too. But
yeah. So I mean, if I could go back, which everyone says that, right? Then I would have stuck to one or two trades and continued just to develop those from the very beginning. So, my advice, if you're somebody that's starting out, is to pick one or two things. Like, if you're going to be roofing, maybe do roofing and gutters, right?
Yeah.
I've got some friends that have been in business for 30 years. They do roofing and gutters, and they do exceptionally well at both of those things. I mean, it is a machine. The amount of jobs that they turn out, their client satisfaction and return customer rate is off the charts. I mean, they do an incredible job, but they've honed in on those couple things. So
in the beginning, you don't have to buy a gutter machine or anything like that. As long as you find a good relationship with a company that strictly does only gutters. Correct. Then you have a really good relationship, and their pricing. So it's pretty simple. You just measure up the gutters, and hey Joe, got another one for you, and they're happy. And you're happy. You're making money, off of the gutters too. And
exactly.
And then eventually you tell Joe, Joe, I bought myself a gutter machine. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, depending on the relationship, we've never brought gutters in house to date.
Really? Oh, that's awesome.
We've sold a ton of gutters, but we've never brought it in house. So we've got great gutter crews. I mean, they do a fantastic job, but I personally like having it turnkey that way.
So you're saying you don't pay maintenance on gutter machines, or you don't have to pay for storage of where to put that, or you don't have to. Correct. You don't have to have an extra truck that you're making a payment on.
Yep.
Wow, that sounds like a really good deal for you.
Yep. So we keep the gutter guys busy. So they love us because we bring jobs to them and we pay on time every time. And then, the customers love it because they just interact with us. It's straightforward. If there's ever a problem, then we're the ones that come out and get it handled. So it works for everyone. We're able to put a margin on it naturally. I mean, that's business, but the gutter guys make the money, the homeowner's happy, and we're in between and we're happy.
Are you working with the same gutter company that you started 8 years ago?
No. So
So it took time to find. It took time to find.
Yeah. So in my first few years, we went through a ton of different crews. I mean, I'm very picky anyway. And so, for us, I wanted to make sure that when I tell the customer, hey, we're going to do the best job, we're going to do, X, Y, and Z for you, I need to make sure that we deliver on that plus some every time. And so, we ran through a lot of different companies and, crews and all of that, because there were some of them that just didn't have the intention of doing it that way. And so, for us, it took me a long time to find the guys that we have now, between the roofing crews, the painting crews, gutters, siding, all of that. My painters and my roofing crews have been with me for a little over 5 years now, and they're amazing.
But it's the same thing, guys. When it comes to looking for a doctor, don't give up looking for a doctor. If you don't like your doctor, you get same thing with a lawyer. I mean, there's certain things that if you're running a roofing business that you got to have, though. You have to have a lawyer, business lawyer that you can trust. That's not, but you can't have it all at the beginning, but little by little you start, but it takes that time though, to find the right relationships and when it comes to scaling.
And don't compromise on that. Don't compromise on the people that you work with, because all that does is compromise what you're able to put out for your customers. And, so whether it's from the lawyer to, the gutter crew or roofing crew or whoever it is, whether it's the people in your office, we got very, very lucky with the very first person we hired in the office. She's still with us and she's amazing. But I've heard horror stories where people have brought people in and then, a customer calls in and they answer the phone. Yeah. What can we do? Like, you have to make sure that all of that's working. So don't compromise on any of that.
So, between the beginning 8 years ago and until you started getting to a point, I mean, how long did it take before you started bringing on people? And when you started bringing on people, you're hiring people, how did you get over your fear that, if I hire this person, they're just going to start their own roofing business and all this? Because that mentality keeps us from scaling. It keeps us from growing. It
does. So starting out, the biggest thing that I had to let go of is thinking that I have to do everything. As a business owner and as business owners, most of the time we feel like, we do this specific thing the best.
You're a little bit of a perfectionist too. You were saying,
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You like it done right.
Yeah. And I'm really picky about things. And
that's it. Yeah.
So, the people in my office, laugh at me about it now because, I've made guys tear off entire slopes of shingles because they had a couple of lines crooked. It's little stuff like that. I mean, I know that if I pay attention to details like that the rest takes care of itself. But the thing that I had to realize was that I don't have to do everything. And the tricky part with that is picking the things that I'm going to let go of and understanding that they may not be done exactly how I want them in the beginning, but that if I train people and if I give them the roadmap to do it the way that I want it, then over time, it'll begin to be done that way every time. So I started hiring people roughly 2 years in. The first 2 years, I basically did everything by myself. After my second year, I brought on a gentleman named Robbie. He's still with me today. He runs almost all of our pressure washing. Wow. And so, because we still do 4 to 6 houses a day with pressure washing, like 5 days a week. So we've got 2 guys now that are doing that. But I brought Robbie on, and Robbie basically worked with me every day, and I taught him everything that I knew from, we've done roofs together. We've painted more houses than I can count together. We've done all kinds of projects together at this point. And, so the fear of me teaching someone and then them going out to do their own thing was never really something that I worried about. The way that I look at it is, if I provide a great opportunity for somebody, all I can do is provide the opportunity. If they take it and take advantage of that opportunity, then they'll be able to grow with me. And so, my intention every time I hire somebody is to help them grow personally, professionally, financially, across the board. And so I don't expect everyone to be with me forever. I want them to naturally, but I understand, sometimes people have to go their own way, and that's understandable. But I can still be of support with those guys. I have one guy, he was a sales rep with me for a while, and he wanted to join, the fire department because that was what he felt his calling was. And so he joined the fire department and started a tree company at the same time. No problem. We send business to him. So I don't mind if somebody wants to start their own thing. I'm still going to support them because, with our mission being to have a positive impact on everyone we come into contact with, you have to live that all the time. It's not I want to do that over here, but not over there,
Yeah, no, you and I are a lot alike in that. I tell them that, hey, it took this many years for us to grow, but if you do want to do that, I'll support you. And,
sure.
And a lot of times even some would come back, they try to go out on their own, but and especially if there's any roofers listening to this that want to start a roofing business, and you're thinking about that the employer is making all this money, you're making less when you're starting out a business. For the first couple of years, you're usually making less than everyone, and you have all the risk. And so I tell people, this is a framework. You can come and make $100,000 a year or whatever, depending on the position. But I built the framework. Why not just take advantage of the framework, and we can have
exactly
same amount of work. You can create a job, or you can have a job.
I built the vehicle. All you got to do is get in and drive.
That's it.
And that's.
I was going to say. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, and that was one of the things where I make sure that I explain to everybody what all goes into it.
That's
maybe I overshare. Maybe I tell the guys, and everyone in the office too much about how things actually work. Maybe. But I do know that for me, if I've got a guy that wants to go out and start on his own, number one, to go out and start on the roofing side of things is fairly expensive. And it can be a lot of a headache, not a little bit of a headache, a lot of a headache. And so, with that, I just always let them know, hey, look, you're able to make actually probably more money. If you're a single sales rep working in a company, I think that you can make individually more money than the owner. The reason why an owner makes money is because they can work with an entire team. And so they make a little bit off of each thing. It's not, if you have if John's a sales rep and John sells $1 million, the owner's not making $500,000 off of him. It's one of those things that's kind of a misconception, is that a lot of guys think, oh yeah, I'm just going to start my own thing because I'll make a ton more money. And like you said, I mean, until you scale it up, you really don't make a ton of money.
Let's get into talking about scaling, talking about how you went from, we kind of just barely got into that, but how can someone scale? Now, say that they've actually got this thing built. There's a lot of people in this stage though. And I know that you've invested in a lot of education, but how can people start scaling their business in such a way where they're getting more time back? That's a lot of things that we talk about at Roofing Business Builders. That, we want you to be able to go to the baseball game with your kid. We want you to be able to get on that yacht. And people say, well, what yacht? And I'm like, you're not thinking big enough yet. No.
100%.
How do they scale, Devon?
Yeah. So, I can't tell you how to do, $100 million because I haven't done that, but I can tell you how to pass, 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
So we got that part started. So the first thing for me, and I actually learned this from a gentleman that we, paid a decent bit to, teach us a bit about scaling. His name's Brandon Dawson with Cardone Ventures. So we attended some of their conferences and have done some other work with them. And the first thing that Brandon talks about when it comes to scaling is the rule of 3. And basically what that means is you have to, if you're a one-man operation, which I was, I had to have someone who could do basically divide my duties into 3 different categories and then bring people on to where I can duplicate myself for that specific category 3 times. And so we've just now actually gotten to the point where I've done that. We have Nellie in the office who does an amazing job on all of the insurance work, all of the scheduling. So basically she's our office manager, but she does basically all of the operations side in the business. We have Caleb, who's our sales manager, who does all of the sales training, helps with estimating, and does role play with the crew, the team, making sure everybody is, engaged and ready to roll. And then we have Mick, who's our project manager, who basically makes sure all of the job sites are running smoothly. So, all the things that I was having to do full time every day, the invoicing, the sales side of things, the production side of things, once you're able to, and you can start to divide that out, that's where you start to gain some of your time back personally, and where you can start to actually grow and scale the company, because you can only scale yourself so far. You can only take a 1 or 2 person operation so far. So that's where we've just now started to be able to fully implement that. So now, we've got the sales, the operations, and the production side of things. And so, that's been huge for us.
It's very important. So, and that's cool. So there's the law, or what they call it, the law of 3, or
the rule of 3. Yep.
Uh-huh.
The rule of 3. So, basically just take yourself, you can sit there and make a list. Actually, they tell you to make 3 columns: the things that you're great at, the things that you can do, but you don't really enjoy doing, and the things that you hate doing.
Yeah. Or that you suck at.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. So, and then they say kind of divide that out and find people who thrive in those things. And that's important. So, but with that, you basically just continue duplicating that. So for me, the first thing was bringing on 1 sales rep, training them up, teaching them how I sell, how I do things, everything from start to finish on it. Then bringing on another. Okay, now I've got 3 sales reps. Okay, now we bring on a sales manager. I'm going to duplicate everything that I know into them so that they can continue growing out a sales team. We started out with 1 person in the office, Nellie. Taught her everything that I know about, ordering, scheduling, supplementing insurance companies, doing all that, basically all the back end stuff. Now we have 1 more lady in the office named Kelly, who's starting on learning a lot of that stuff as well. Getting Mick in the field, as far as starting on the production side. So it's a process and it takes time, but it's well worth it. It is well worth it.
Yeah. And it's fun too, because you're meeting new people, and you develop relationships even with your employees for a lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So how are you going about, do you have employee handbooks? How do you go about training?
Yep. So there's a couple different versions of that. We have our own processes that we've been developing over the last 6 months or so. And the processes are not new to us. It's just we're creating standard operating procedures on how we do just about everything. Everything from how we answer the phones in the office. When you call our office, you should get the same call answer every single time. You should hear the exact same script every time. You should be asked the same questions every time, stuff like that. So starting with that, I've put a lot of focus over the last roughly 6 months into actually writing those out, because it's hard. Yeah, it takes time.
It
really, it really takes a lot of time, but that's where your blueprint comes from. So when we talk about scaling and actually growing, us actually having processes in place, they don't have to be perfect. We can fix them. You do something the same way 1,000 times, and 500 times it doesn't work out right. Change it. It's not. That's one of the things that we're not scared of, is we can set something up and then find out it doesn't work, and we'll change it.
That's the whole thing. Everyone, if you focus on things as being a mistake, then you're going to have that negative feeling inside you. But if you're like excited about discovering that, hey, well, that shit don't work. This does. Yep. And don't beat yourself up for learning something. You're just growing. Yep. And that's so cool. So, and you're writing out the SOPs. Oh, what's the first SOP that you wrote out?
Answering the phone.
That's awesome. I wasn't expecting that. Because, a lot of people say, well, the first one is, how to use a screw gun, or whatever. But the truth is your first SOP sometimes is your job as the business owner, because if you're out, you want someone to be able to step up or step in. And then, but the SOP is like how to open up the shop,
Yep.
And do you write them all yourself, or are you utilizing your key operations people to write those SOPs?
We are using everyone to write them, and we're doing it as a team. And so, we have certain ways where I want things done a specific way. And so on those, I'll make sure that I've explained it properly and that everybody's on board with that. But, it's like if I were to write out an SOP on doing a supplement for an insurance company, Nellie does that every single day. And so she writes that process. When it comes down to an SOP on how we do role play every day, Caleb's going to write that because that's what he is doing every day. So, then I review them and I make sure, okay, yes, this is correct. Oh, we need to change this little bit, stuff like that. But I think that it's good to have all of your people involved in it, just to make sure that everyone understands exactly what they're doing and how you want things done.
And see, once this is built, then you can literally scale across the country.
Correct.
Right? I mean, you could do correct. You could open another office on the other side of town, or you can because it's already, now you have your template.
Yeah.
It takes work to do this part, right?
Yep. I think one of the mistakes that I've seen others make that I've tried to learn from is growing too quickly and spreading themselves out too fast. For us, that's not a slight towards anyone. It's just something where if you don't have all your processes in place and then you spread yourself out so thin, then it's tough to do well anywhere.
You feel overwhelmed too. And if you're not feeling overwhelmed, your employees may feel overwhelmed. But if you feel exasperated or overwhelmed, then they'll feel that energy off of you.
Absolutely.
And then the customers will feel that energy off of them.
Yep.
You're a wise man, Devon.
I've made a lot of mistakes and it's cost me a lot of money. And so from that, I realized that I would rather pay people to show me the mistakes not to make than not pay people and then have it cost me 5-10 times as much.
It's so true. I've been on that road too. Yeah.
Yeah. It's easy to go that way. I mean, my thing is I don't want my ego and me thinking that I know everything and that I don't want that to get into the way of helping my people succeed. And so, with that, that's why I invest heavily into, personal development and growing and learning and training, so that I give them the best version, not only of me, but the best version of them for their customers, for their families, everybody.
Dude, you have a great heart. I really appreciate this. Is there any other something wise or a big lesson that you'd like to also share before we finish up?
One other thing that I've really been harping on right now, and this is something for if any guys are getting started. Brandon Dawson talks about revenue is vanity, profit is sanity. And so my advice, and this is something that it caught me sideways too. I thought that big numbers were the most important part, and it's not. Making sure that you have a proper profit margin and actually that you remain profitable after overhead, after everything else is extremely important. So revenue is vanity, profit is sanity. Like I said, if you're just getting started, make sure that you're focused on your bottom line. Don't just focus on the top line, because That's the flashy side. That's the ego side talking. Oh, we did 15 million. Okay, well, you only had an 8% profit margin. So what, why would you do that? I'd rather do 5 million at a 25, 27% margin.
Yeah. And have a higher quality customer too.
1000%.
Yeah.
So
higher quality customers will bring you more work,
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, that would be one thing. And then, just for guys that are kind of getting started and growing into it, like we talked about, pick, one or two things and do that first.
Do it really, really well so that you have a reputation in that.
Yep.
And plus it's like, I want everyone to always say that, hey, that's my roofer,
Yep.
Bullard's my roofer,
Yeah.
And then they're bragging. I mean, they'll be at a cocktail party or they'll be at a trade show. And so they'll say something about, man, the shitty ass roofer didn't. They'll say, oh, you should try my roofer. Because that's how they feel about it. They're like enamored with you and your company, but it's because you said what you're going to do and then you did what you said.
That's right. That's right. And another little quick thing is overpromise and then overdeliver.
Ooh, that's nice.
So
instead of saying underpromise, overdeliver, you're saying overpromise and overdeliver.
Yep, that's a lesson that I took from Grant Cardone. He said basically overpromise and overdeliver, because he had a question behind that. He said, "Who do you think that you over-delivering benefits?" And everyone answers, "Oh, well, it benefits the customer because they get more." He said, "Wrong. It benefits you because you know that you went above and beyond what you said you were going to, and so the confidence boost that gives you." And, the benefits that come to you from over delivering and giving more than was agreed upon will always pay you back.
That's awesome. That's a really good advice.
So, Daniel, one question that I did have for you was about trade shows, because I know you've talked heavily about that. And I know you've worked quite a few of them, I believe, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
What advice would you have for a roofing company as far as if they're trying to build their local brand, as far as trade shows or any kind of shows, in order, like, what advice do you have that would help us do that?
Well, what's your passion? That's the first things. And it doesn't have to be roofing, but what are you passionate about when you're not roofing? You passionate about sports or passionate about, I don't know, just the boating or whatever it is. What's your passion?
So
what trade show would you want to be going to just for personal pleasure?
Okay. See, I hadn't thought about it from that perspective. So I like outdoors. I like golf. I like some home things, depending on the type of project. I'd have to think a little bit more into that. So,
and the reason why
first thing is look at what you're passionate about is the first piece, right?
That's how you choose your niches too, because if you're going to be at a trade show, you're going to have those separate passions from roofing in common with this new relationship that you're going to develop with someone that owns 150 different buildings. And because you have a common interest, he resonates or she resonates with you, you're resonating. Next thing you know, you're out, going out on vacations together,
Okay.
And then, but you develop that specific relationship. Once you have like 5 to 10 of these relationships, you never have to worry about anything ever again. Because as long as they have like multiple buildings,
Yeah. Because I know when I listened to your other show, you're talking specifically about that with the commercial side of things. And so would you suggest that if somebody's looking to try to create a transition into the commercial space, would you suggest doing that as an avenue of
that's what I teach
relationships?
That's what I teach in the Roofing Business Builder program. That's
awesome.
Yeah, it's the whole focus, because if you can, I mean, but the biggest problem is that people don't realize that they have to also follow their passion. You don't necessarily follow the money, but I mean, you'll take the money. If someone comes to you and like, I need a roof. Yeah, sure. But once you work on this segment of your business, and I like I overheard you say this before, is you don't mix the employees that are doing the pressure washing. They're not the roofers. So you keep the pressure washing business financially stable. But once you start mixing your employees up, then you're going to lose quality because you can't remember the other department very well. So so I always suggest when you're switching into commercial, you have to create a whole new team. You can bring maybe one or two of your key people over, but you could really start losing the money that you were making on that residential side. So it's better to keep that machine going and then create this new division and base it upon your passion. If you're passionate about that, your employees will feel the passion through you, and that passes on through. But then go to those trade shows and then get on boards, the industry associations within that passion. And you want to eventually, within the first couple of years, have everyone that's in that industry association go, you see that guy over there? See that guy? That's my roofer. That's my roofer. Yeah. That's what you want everyone to say. And there's a lot of other things to do to build to that too. So that's basically in a nutshell.
That's awesome. We worked our first home show here just a few weeks ago, and that was a really interesting experience for us. I feel like we did well at it. I think we generated some great contacts and had some incredible conversations, which was the whole intention. So but it's just one of those things. It's a learning process for us because we're new to that.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing too, is that if you sometimes you can use specific niches that you already have done. So you fell into a hotel, and the next thing you have pictures and you made some videos of a hotel that you did a great job on. And so now you can actually build out a page for that. And then if someone's contacting you, or you're having, I forget your girls' names, but if you have one of them start sending out LinkedIn messages to, hey, so-and-so, we noticed that you're doing hotels. It's one of our specialties, because that's your, and just what I need to know if you'd be interested, or, I was maybe checking out one of your buildings or what have you. And then you send them a link. Well, when they click that link, they're going to go to a page that has hotels. Because you don't want it to go to whenever this prospect, if he clicks on something and it comes to your page, it's a picture of a residence. There's no resonance with the residents. Ooh.
There you go. So you suggest making sure that, whatever area you're going after traffic in, that you've got a landing page set up directly for that specific thing to drive them to. That makes a lot of sense.
Because everything starts to click to where they feel enamored by you. That's like, damn, there's synchronicities here. It's like you're dating a girl and you're talking about specific type of subjects, and she goes, "What? You like that too?" Damn. And so that's what But if you reverse engineer the relationship, then follow your passion, because it's hard to choose a niche. But if you know what you're passionate about, my wife and I had been in, you probably heard me say this before, but I've been in a wheel that can go across sand for your baby stroller. I never did the engineering on it. I could, it'd be cheap to develop that. But she says, you really want to go to baby shows? You want to go to a trade show where there's only babies? I'm like, fuck that. so she's, let's not do that one. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
See,
I get it.
So and plus you have knowledge within those niches, and then you'll resonate with those type of customers.
Yeah.
Seriously, the commercial, super fast. Oh, well, I mean, especially you with the knowledge you have now.
Awesome. I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah. Hey, Devon, thank you so much for being on the show.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you. And have to have you back.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate you having me. It's been great getting the chat.
So that was my interview with Devon Bullard. And boy, I tell you, he was full of information. I love having multimillionaires on the show because they're always sharing their mistakes. Remember, I don't believe in mistakes. I believe that every time something happens that is not favorable, we call that a discovery. We kind of went over that. But talking about how he scaled his business using automation and training. And he even spends a lot of money every month on his own training. He does courses. He spends over $2,000 a month. But you know what? It shows because he's making millions. So continue to invest in your employees and continue to invest in yourself. Now it's time for Did You Know? Did you know? Did you know that in commercial roofing, we don't use the term flat roof? So, especially when you're talking to an architect. But the term flat roof is not a good term because we don't want a roof to be flat. We want the water to flow to a direction of either a drain or to the gutter. And so we have to have slope. So we call them low slope roofs. So you can always tell if a person doesn't do a lot of commercial or has not done a lot of professional work in that commercial realm because they'll always use the term flat roof. Now, it's not to say there's a lot of us that will still say flat roof, but we're really careful on who we say flat roof to. If you're a customer and someone was talking, a roofer was talking to you and one sitting there and explaining how that they're going to help to solve this issue on their low slope roof, and then you have another person say, well, we're going to fix your issues on all that your flat roofs, you're going to see it's going to be a different sensation for that customer. So if you want to find customers that really think that you know what you're doing or know what you're talking about, be sure to use the term low slope. Well, that's it for the show. I'm so glad you guys are listening, and I know that several of you all told me that you're listening in the truck, and so I do try to keep that the sound a little bit higher, so that way if your tires are making some noise, you can still hear the program while driving to the next job, or if you're driving home, from a job. But by the way, if you're listening, I got my Yeti microphone back out, and I didn't know how to use it before. I used to have it on a tabletop, but I have it dangling now because that's actually the proper way to use this microphone, because you're supposed to speak onto the side of the microphone, not directly onto the top of it, or the bottom in this case. But anyway, so I'm messing around with this microphone, so I'm going to improve the sound for y'all. So I really do appreciate you guys. We have more things coming, more interviews. And don't forget that if you are one of those roofers that are crossing over, you want to do commercial and you're scared, I'm going to be having some openings coming up in July. And, I have to keep it kind of limited because I'm like you. I mean, if you're anything like me, I'm good at what I'm good at, but my areas that I'm not good at, I struggle in certain areas, especially in the social media areas. But I'm looking at hiring some more people. But yeah, I got some good things coming your way. So that's about it, guys. I appreciate you guys. Keep making some money, and remember this, that I don't always consult on commercial roofing, but when I do, I make millionaires. Stay wealthy, my friends.